It is finally October and the horror season starts now. Tonight, we'll be performing an autopsy on 28 Days Later to determine how and why it got made. So please, be not afraid and take a seat in the anatomical theater as we get started. I think we can all relate to the fact that as children we'd pick a favorite classic monster and defend our choice like our lives depended on it. Half the fun was arguing with your mates on the schoolyard about who would win in a hypothetical battle. Patient Zero Alex Garland was no different. Born in 1970, he grew up in a horror film revolution led by George A. Romero with his groundbreaking zombie films. This new subgenre fascinated him, and he spent countless hours watching them. His obsession did taper off, but would eventually reignite in his 20s. According to him, in the 90s he spent hundreds of hours on Resident Evil killing zombies, possibly thousands of hours, maybe even millions. It got to a point where he was able to dispatch the undead fairly easily since the zombies posed no threat. However, he did confess that the true fright lied with the dogs. It was around this time that he realized that there hadn't been a solid zombie movie in quite a while, and he set out to write one.
I wrote a movie called 28 Days Later, which was pretty much a result of playing Resident Evil. So I had watched zombie movies when I was a kid and then kind of forgotten about them and then played Resident Evil and remembered, oh, zombies are great. I'd forgotten how much I loved zombies.
As well as that, it reminded me how much I loved zombie movies, and I thought, I love those, but there hasn't been one for ages, and there was a thought there, I suppose. After I got good at playing the game, I was thinking the zombies are not actually very scary because you can kill them quite easily, or you can get away from them with a brisk walk. But there was something else in the game, which were these dogs. The dogs moved really quickly, and they actually would give me a jump sometimes. And I think that's the thing that gave the sort of idea of a zombie movie, but where the zombies move quickly. The quick zombies, I think, really did come from playing Resident Evil.
And Alex, the writer, was a mad zombie fan. He knew everything about the zombie genre, and I didn't. So I kind of kept a distance from it. To be really scary, they can't just stumble around going, oh. They've got to, because otherwise you just walk away from them. So I said they've got to run.
Sure, Jan.
One important detail about Garland that you ought to know is that he doesn't believe in the supernatural.
Basically what I'm saying is I'm a sort of science nerd, and I wasn't taken by the idea that these zombies were caused by something supernatural. So I came up with like some completely bullshit idea about viruses and chimpanzees looking at violent imagery, or I don't know, it's just silly stuff.
That small detail allowed him to inject new life into the zombie genre. The era of ambulance walkers became a thing of the past. Now we have the infected. When the completed work reached Danny Boyle, he was captivated and signed on to direct without hesitation. Danny Boyle and company were given a tiny budget of $8 million to work with, which kind of forced them to get creative. They made a conscious decision to cast little-known actors, which served to keep the costs low and heighten the suspense by forcing you to be unsure of their fates. The filmmakers took the chance on Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris, with both actors killing it in their roles. Filming took place in London in chronological order using digital cameras. This allowed them to shoot guerrilla style without the necessary permits. In the commentary, Danny Boyle notes that they shut down the streets and set dressed them quickly so that they can get various shots of Jim in total isolation. All these efforts led to the movie being unleashed in the UK on November 1st, 2002 and onto the US audience on June 27th, 2003. The movie faced heavy competition that weekend, leading it to come in fourth on the box office. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle came in first, Ang Lee's Hulk came in second, Oscar winner and already on its fifth week, Finding Nemo came in third, and 28 Days Later came in fourth place. That weekend it made $10 million, surpassing its $8 million budget. In its final theatrical run, it brought in $45 million domestically and $27 million internationally, for a worldwide total of $72 million. Unquestionably a financial success. How about critically? The critics and audience on Rotten Tomatoes were in close agreement, with the scores being 87% and 85% respectively. The other scores are tightly grouped as well. On Metacritic, it's at a 73, Letterboxd has a score at a 3.7 out of 5, and IMDb has it at a 7.5 out of 10. You can make the case that if they're all on the same scale, then the scores would be 73, 74, and 75 out of 100. Pretty much the closest I've ever seen in all the movies I've covered. Roger Ebert did review the film favorably, but critiqued the third act, stating, The ending is disappointing, an action shootout. But for most of the way, it's a great ride. But then I'm never satisfied. 28 Days Later is a tough, smart, ingenious movie that leads its characters into situations where everything depends on their and our understanding of human nature. YouTuber Jeremy Johns did a retro review on the movie in 2010, stating,
I mean, the thing that pissed me off most about the movie is I got the Blu-ray and it looks no better than a DVD. I mean, there is no high-def version of this movie. So if you're looking for a cool playlist for Halloween, like 12 hours of just Halloween movies with zombies and vampires and whatnot, I'd say 28 Days Later gets a shot at that. Because 28 Days Later is zombie-tastic in that realistic kind of way. Halloween ratings. Always fun.
The funny thing about his review is his minor complaint about the quality not sizing up to the expected Blu-ray. Because yeah, the graininess is one of the first things you'll notice. In all honesty, it should have aged terribly. But I think the choice to use digital over traditional film gave the movie a certain aesthetic that meshes well with the horror. I will argue that it was ahead of its time, especially considering how nowadays analog horror is a staple of the internet. And I don't want to hear that the Blair Witch Project did it first, because that's different. That's found footage. Those are diegetic visuals when 28 Days Later is not. Regardless, the impact that 28 made to modern pop culture is astounding. Once it was released, zombies experienced a renaissance. Books, movies, TV shows, and video games were released in record numbers. Zombies were in, baby. In the midst of all this, 28 Days Later got a sequel in 2007 in the form of 28 Weeks Later, and in 2025, 28 Years Later was released with a fourth, or is it a two-parter, 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, scheduled for 2026. Anyways, the movie lasts for 113 minutes and it is part of the drama, horror, sci-fi, and thriller genres. Unsurprisingly, it's been rated R for strong violence and gore, language, and nudity. Cillian Murphy was born on May 25, 1976 in Douglas, Cork, Ireland. Murphy plays the lead role of Jim, a man who awakens from a coma and misses the apocalypse. Prior to 28, he was in How Harry Became a Tree, as well as On the Edge, both of which were released in 2001. After 28, he was in Intermission, as well as 3-time Oscar-nominated movie Girl with a Pearl Earring, which were released in 2003. Naomi Harris was born on September 6, 1976 in London, UK. Harris plays the role of Selena, a survivor that runs into Jim, accepting him into her tiny group of survivors. Prior to 28, she was in Living in Hope and Anansi, both of which were released in 2002. After 28, she was in Crust in 2003, followed by Trauma in 2004. Director Danny Boyle was born on October 20th, 1956 in Radcliffe, UK. Prior to directing 28, he had directed A Life Less Ordinary in 1997, and in 2000, he directed The Beach, which was written by our buddy Alex Garland. After 28, he went on to direct Millions in 2004 and collaborated once again with Alex Garland and Cillian Murphy in 2007's Sunshine. If you got this far, I'd encourage you to subscribe and maybe browse around my channel for similar content.
I remember actually when I was at secondary school and my teacher was saying that, we shouldn't worry about global warming or any of these things. She said you should worry about viruses, and that for some reason has always stayed with me.